I was so impressed that everybody showed up for my talk, and then somebody told me that this was the only talk. So I'm just going to take it as a compliment and just go from there. So welcome to the Angular animation talk. And Jules was indeed correct this morning. Matthias did come to Phoenix, and we did go rock climbing, but during our adventure, we realized that something is missing from this talk. We need to take it to the next level. And so what ended up happening is we went skydiving. And so this is Matthias falling out of a plane, and as his life is flashing before his eyes, as he thinks he's going to die, this is where we came up with this idea for this talk. So I also participated, so I wouldn't ask Matthias to do something that I myself was not willing to partake in. So before I get into Angular animations, I want to talk about why animations in themselves are important. I am a huge fan of material design by Google, and one of the core principles of the design language is that motion provides meaning. That having motion that is meaningful, we can draw the user's focus and provide feedback. Now, meaning through motion is not a new concept. This has existed for many years in the realms of traditional animation, in that animators knew that motion was the mechanism to convey intentions to a viewer behind the action of a character. So what I'm saying is that a character did something, motion was the means to communicate this is the actual intention behind this particular action. And so intention is really important because it establishes context for a particular action. So let me give you an example. So we have Justin up here, who on the front row, a lovely human being. And so if I raise my hands up, this could be, hey, give me a hug, bring it in. So, this real notice here. Or it could be like I'm challenging him, so come at me, bro. And so it's important to know the intention of an action, because I would hate to come in for a hug and for Justin to punch me in the face. So intention sets context, and he totally would. Now, believe it or not, we are in the business of communication. We create apps that is designed to communicate information to a user in a meaningful way. Conversely, when a user interacts with us, we need to interpret that in a meaningful way. So it's a conversation between what we are creating and the people that are using it. And by using animations to clarify intent, we can put the motion in emotion, and we can take a set of user interactions and create a user experience. So this is what I'd like to show you how to do in Angular today. But what I want to say first is, if anybody's ever met Matthias, so I'm just going to do a little sideline here. He is an extremely talented individual. And as his BFF, I hope that he never stops creating. But if he did, Angular animations would be his magnum opus. It's fantastic. And it, quite frankly, is one of my favorite pieces in the Angular framework. And so with that in mind, we really set out to create a demo that was non-trivial, it was of consequence, and it highlighted kind of the depth and range of the things that you can do in Angular animations. And so what we have here is the demo, this is what we're looking at, which is also my slide deck. And so I'm actually even on Jeff Cross's laptop, so if something goes horribly wrong, I'm blaming him. But we have posted this on a website. I'll share the link in just a little bit. But the idea is that we'll walk through this website, I'll explain some of the concepts within Angular animations, and then when it's all said and done, my goal is that you would go, check out the site, click around, download the code, and use it to make lots of money. I approve. Please do that. So this is done in a movie-style site, and so let's start the first act and set the stage by talking about how to get Angular animations into your application. So animations in Angular is essentially a DSL, and it sits on top of the Web Animations API. This functionality is encapsulated by the browser animations module. So the first thing we need to do is add this to our module. So you can see here, import it, and then we're adding it into ng module. So that is the first step. Now, animations in Angular are linked using the trigger property. And so when a property changes for a trigger or an element is taken on or off the stage, this animation or the underlying animation is then triggered. That's why it's called trigger. And so it is bound to a component. So if we look here at the code, on the element, we have a my animation trigger that whenever some state value changes, the underlying animation is going to kick off. Or, in the case of enter and leave, that when this element is removed from the page or added to the page, it's also going to trigger that animation. And so now we need to define the animation itself. And so this happens within the metadata. So we place it within the at component. And so you can see here, we have an animations property, and we are defining our animations. Animations are sequence, or rather a series of transitions. And so within our trigger, you can see that we have multiple transitions. And so this is how we organize our applications. And then from here, when a trigger is complete, and I'll talk about state and animation in just a moment, is that we can apply a final state to whatever we are animating. And so on to the bread and butter of Angular animations. And so this is animate and style. So as you start to add this to your application, this is what you're going to use the most. So style will apply a style to your element instantaneously. Animate plus style will apply a style to your element over time. And we can also use keyframe as well. So first and foremost is that, let's say you need to set a starting state for your animation. So for instance, you want to ensure that opacity is 0. You would set that with style. Or you could use the asterisk symbol to say just use whatever current value and run with that. So you can say whatever it is, go from there. So this is useful when you're changing directions or manipulating kind of a dynamic animation. And then to add time to the equation, we then, within our animate method, then we add in the style that we want to animate to over time. So now we're just simply saying this is what we want to end up with, but this is the duration that we want to go in. And so we can see the same thing with insertion and removal. So up to this point, we are triggering animations using a property on the animation trigger, but because things enter and leave, and it's hard to actually target that if it's not on the DOM element, that we can use enter and leave to accomplish the same thing. So it's just another kind of entry point for us to lock into and apply some style over time. It's also helpful that when you're doing an animation, to know things such as when is the animation started, when has it finished. So think of component lifecycle hooks for a component, super useful. It's also useful to know, like, hey, this thing is finished, maybe go do this other tangential thing. And so when an animation starts, it will emit a series of callbacks. So in the code, we can look here, and so we have a trigger, my insert remove trigger, and we can use event binding, bind to the start and done events, and attach our callbacks. And this emits an animation event. And so I think this is pretty handy. You have all sorts of information about the animation itself as it's going, such as the trigger name, phase name, time, from state to state element, etc. And so this is kind of a high-level shape of Angular animations, from the module to the trigger, to the animation definition within the component, to defining the transitions, from style to animate, and then if you want to use callbacks, that is available as well. The next kind of step, if we're going to take this basic thing and build on it, is some advanced animations. And so as I click through this, notice how this just moves in almost like a dream. I just want to go back and let me look at this one more time. That's amazing. So Matthias, if you're watching, they're clapping for you. It's not me. So this is actually, on the surface, if we were going to do this by hand, this is a fairly complicated animation of trying to sequence an entire grid or a list of elements as they come into the page and out of the page. This is actually quite easy now with query. And so this is kind of the new big thing. When you talk to Matthias about animations, this is pretty much the thing that turns the lights on in his eyes, is that query allows us to target specific elements within the parent component and apply animations specifically to them. More importantly, is that Angular intelligently handles the setup and the teardown and the cleanup of these elements as they're being coordinated across the page. So, for instance, let's just switch from Gallery 2 to Gallery 1. Now, if we go here and let's look at this animation. You can see here within the transition, so we're saying transition from state 1 or state 2, the query underneath is just saying look for anything that is entering the stage, and then apply this particular animation. So in one place, and through one very powerful query, we are able to set up an animation that just sequences the entire coordination and movement of an entire list. And so very easy to set up because we're able to query the sub-elements and apply an animation to the individual sub-elements. And let's even see this. Another example of this, in the page animation, whereas we were looking for anything entering the stage, in this case, we're looking for photo record, a list item on the menu, and the form. And so it's saying go through and apply this animation to these sub-elements, and it just coordinates and knows how to do that. So again, let me just go back here. Basics, and you'll notice that as this is coming in one place, we're able to say everything that comes in, just apply this simple animation, and really clean, really smooth. What we can also do is introduce stagger. And so this is really quite simple, but the effect, I think, is really, really nice. And so we go here, and we look at the Gallery 3 animations. All that we're doing is adding in stagger, and we're saying stagger this by 50 milliseconds. So I'm not going to do the math, but the idea is that we are able to offset this slightly and, again, create motion. So this is a very nice, like, hey, things are loading, things are coming in, and creating kind of that line of sight as things come in. So let me just want to see this one more time. Yeah. We can also do this with filter. So I think I have to go to Gallery 1 here, but we can do show me the cool dude, or we can do style. Now notice how fast that is. So we are able to query and filter this grid by using query and animate the subchild very, very quickly. And so you can apply this to moving in an entire list of things, or you can query against it and get this kind of effect, which is really, really quite nice. So next up on the docket is routing. So we've been talking about animating on a single component, but I come from a Flash background, and it was very common as you're moving from kind of one page in the application to kind of animate it all out and all in. With router animations, we have the ability to create really rich, immersive experiences by creating compelling transitions from one page to another. So what we have here is some subpages, and I'm just going to click through a few of these before I walk through it. And so you can see as we're transitioning from one route to another, we are able to get this really nice, clean animation. And so how do we do this? Well, this is just like, for the most part, animating on a component. The difference is that when a route changes, that we need to signal a top-level animation trigger about it. So the first thing we need to do is set up a trigger. Now you notice here we have the router outlet, and so we're setting up our animation trigger, our route animation trigger, on the enclosing element. And then from there, we need to communicate our animation configuration details. So on our routing table, we add in a data property, and we're saying this is the animation we want to pin to this page. So for the home page, if you can believe it, we're going to use the home page animation and so forth. And then we need to tell our animation, like, this is what we want you to use, set it up. And so using prepare route, and you'll notice we have outlet is a local template variable, we're passing that in to our router animation. So it prepares the routes to be animated, and we're communicating this is what we want you to do when you navigate to this route. And then from here, we can navigate from page to page. So remember, trigger, transition. In this case, we're transitioning from home page to profile page. And from here, we have within the transition, we have enter for the new page and leave for the old page. So as one page is leaving, you'll enter like that animation, and the other one, as it's entering, you'll enter in that one. We can also do these animations in parallel, so you can animate one entirely out and then the new one, or you can do that in parallel. And so animating in serial is pretty straightforward. I think Jeff's internet just died. Oh, there we go. Yay, Wi-Fi. And so let me go back to the first one real quick. So this is in serial. So we're just simply query, it goes through, enter, and then leave, or leave, then enter. But if we do it in parallel, we can accomplish that by using the group method. Now, what I want to call out here is you'll notice that I say a word, and then conveniently, there is a method for that. So we have an animation trigger. Oh, look, there's a method. Group, there's a method. Query, animate. And so Matthias has done a phenomenal job of really, truly creating a DSL around animations, that there is almost this natural language experience as you are describing the animations you want to take. And so we can animate in serial or parallel. One other thing worth pointing out is we just expand on the power of possibility is that we can actually define our animations at the component level. And so what this means is that you can, for instance, dynamically load components that are designed to work within specific transitions, but it's not held within a container component, but within a subcomponent. And so how that works is by setting up your host binding on the child component, that you can listen for that trigger and then define your animations at a component level. So this is really powerful, and it gives you the ability to kind of compose and isolate your animations on a kind of a per case basis. So this granularity and the power to do so is, I think, really nice. And so now for the final example, this kind of just blows my mind, is everything that we've seen so far has been constructed and sequenced within the component itself in the metadata, which in a lot of cases is very nice. But we can inject Animation Builder into our component and then build what I will call an animation player. And so what that allows us to do is within the component itself, notice we are injecting the Animation Builder, and then we are programmatically building our animation. And then within Build Player, we are creating the animation. So we're building it, then creating it. What's interesting about this, because this is now in a programmatic or imperative context, in our scrubber code, you can see here that on the player itself, you can set the position. And so what does this mean? So if we have the player and we have control of it, and we can set position on the player, you can now do things like this. You can start to reverse an animation, play an animation, and it's all there within the player. So now we have the ability to not only transition from page to page, and not only the ability to animate between at the component level, but Matthias is taking this a step further and giving us the ability to have complete control over our animations using Animation Builder and the player. So I look at this and my mind just starts exploding with possibilities of things that we could do. In terms of having something, you build it out, you're able to move it back. And so in terms of, like, for instance, let's say 360-degree product photography, where maybe the thing assembles itself as you're looking at it, or a building or some kind of reconstruction, now we have the ability to access the player and assert where we want to be in that animation at any given time. And so to me, this is just a phenomenal amount of power that, as we circle back, we have the tool set that we need in the ability to create not only a transaction with our user, but also an experience by using motion to communicate intent. And so, in closing, a huge thanks to Matthias, not only for helping to build this resource, but just in general for having a passion to build animations and realizing it, and all his hard work to getting this done. So not only do I appreciate that they took the time to work with me to build this site, but that he built animations as a whole is something really valuable. And when we build products that people love, that is ultimately, I think, why we do what we do. So there's some resources here. I'll post this, or actually I'll show you the link in just a minute. But we have all of this. It's on GitHub. If you go to Year of Moo, he has a really good article on animations, and of course, the Angular.io site. Now, if you want to get a hold of me, I'm at Simpleton, One Hungry Mind. And if you want to get a hold of Matthias and tell him that you love this, Year of Moo and yearofmoo.com. So if you love this talk, let me know. If you hated it, let him know. So that's the deal. And I'm amazed that Jeff's laptop did not blow up. The website for this, and I'll tweet this out in just a moment, is animationsftw as forthewin.in. So if you go to animationsforthewin.in, everything that I've demonstrated here is available online for you to play with. So please do, and let us know what you think, and go build stuff better than ever, and we'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much.